In the fog-shrouded town of Eldridge, 12-year-old Elias lights an ancient candle carved with mysterious symbols, unleashing a cosmic flame that whispers his name and pulls him into a battle against hungry stars, shadowy voids, and a Gothic manor beyond the universe, where every choice could save his home or doom it to eternal fire. Chapter 1. The Whispering Flame. In a small town wrapped in thick fog and old trees, lived a boy named Elias. He was 12, with messy brown hair and eyes that always looked like they were searching for something lost. The town, called Eldridge, sat on the edge of a deep forest where folks said strange things happened. Houses were made of dark wood, with roofs that sloped like sad faces. Street lamps flickered with yellow light, casting long shadows that danced like ghosts. Elias lived in a creaky old house with his grandma, who told stories of stars that could speak and flames that knew secrets. One rainy night, Elias sat by the window, watching drops race down the glass. Thunder grumbled far away like a giant, waking up. His grandma had gone to bed early, leaving him alone with the quiet. In the living room, an old candle sat on the mantel. It was no ordinary candle. Carved with odd symbols that looked like twisted vines and stars, it had been in the family for years. Grandma said it came from a traveler who wandered from places beyond the sky. Elias never lit it, but tonight, something pulled him toward it. He grabbed a match from the drawer, his hand shaking a bit. The match scratched against the box, and a small flame jumped to life. He touched it to the wick. The candle lit up with a soft glow, but the flame was different. It burned blue at the edges, like the color of a cold winter sky. As it flickered, Elias heard a whisper. At first, he thought it was the wind slipping through cracks in the walls. But no, it was clearer. "Elias," it said, soft as a breath. He jumped back, heart pounding like a drum. "Who's there?" he asked, looking around the empty room. The flame grew taller, dancing as if alive. "Elias," it whispered again, this time louder. He leaned closer, eyes wide. The voice was not scary, but warm, like an old friend calling from afar. It spoke his name over and over, pulling him in. Pictures flashed in his mind, vast spaces filled with stars, swirling colors like paint mixed in water, and shapes that twisted in ways that hurt his eyes. Elias blew out the candle, and the whispers stopped. He ran to his room, hiding under the blankets. Sleep came slow, filled with dreams of endless black skies where flames floated like lost souls. In the morning, he told his grandma what happened. She sat in her rocking chair, knitting a scarf, her face lined with worry. "That candle," she said, "it's from the old times. Times when people looked too deep into the stars and found things looking back." She told him a tale. Long ago, before the town was built, explorers found a rock that fell from the sky. It glowed. With inner fire, they carved it into candles, thinking it would bring light and luck. But those who lit them heard voices from beyond. Some went mad, wandering into the forest never to return. Others saw visions of worlds where time bent and space folded like paper. "The flame speaks names," she said, "because it knows us from the stars. We're all made of star stuff, child. But some stars are hungry." Elias nodded, but curiosity burned in him like that blue flame. He promised not to light it again, but promises are hard to keep when secrets call. That afternoon, while Grandma napped, he sneaked back to the living room. The candle sat there, innocent in the daylight. He lit it once more. The whisper returned. "Elias, come closer." This time it told a story. It spoke of a great cosmic fire, born in the heart of a dying star. This fire traveled through voids, seeking souls to share its light. It found Earth, hiding in objects like candles to wait for the right person. "You are chosen," it said. "Your name echoes in the stars." Elias felt a pull, like invisible strings tugging his heart. He saw in his mind a Gothic castle floating in space, towers twisted like thorns, windows glowing with eerie light. Shadows moved inside, whispering ancient words. Hours passed as he listened. The flame showed him glimpses, planets cracking open, like eggs, spilling rivers of fire, beings made of light and shadow dancing in eternal night, and a void so deep it swallowed thoughts. Elias's eyes stung, but he couldn't look away. The room grew cold, frost forming on the windows despite the summer heat outside. He heard footsteps upstairs, but Grandma was asleep. No, the sounds came from within the flame, echoes of feet walking on stardust. When Grandma woke and found him, she snatched the candle away. "Foolish boy, the flame feeds on your wonder. It will take you piece by piece." She hid it in a locked box under her bed. But that night, Elias dreamed again. The flame called from the dark, promising wonders beyond the town, beyond the world. He woke sweating, heart racing. In the mirror, his eyes looked different, flecked with tiny blue sparks. Days turned to weeks. Elias tried to forget, playing with friends in the fields, chasing fireflies at dusk. But the whispers lingered in his ears, faint during the day, loud at night. One evening, a storm hit hard. Lightning cracked the sky, thunder shaking the house. Power went out, leaving them in dark. Grandma searched for lanterns, but Elias knew where the candle was. He crept to her room, picked the lock with a pin like he'd seen in books. He lit it in his room, door shut. The flame roared to life, bigger than before. "Elias, listen," it said. Now it showed him his own life, but twisted. He saw himself as a baby, but stars shone in his cradle instead of toys. His parents, who died young in a car crash, appeared as shadows waving from a distant galaxy. "They wait for you," the flame said, "in the cosmic halls where time stops." Tears rolled down his face. He missed them so much. The flame promised to reunite him if he followed its light. It taught him words in a strange tongue, sounds that buzzed like bees in his head. Saying them made the air shimmer like heat over pavement. Objects in the room floated, his bed, books, a toy truck. He laughed, fear mixing with joy, but then pain hit. His head throbbed, visions flooding in too fast. He saw horrors, creatures, with too many eyes feasting on worlds. Black holes singing songs of despair, and a flame god, vast as the universe, hungry for names. Elias screamed, dropping the candle. It rolled, setting the curtain on fire. Flames spread quick, orange and real, not blue and whispering. Grandma burst in, eyes wide. She grabbed a blanket, smothering the fire. "What have you done?" she cried. Elias sobbed, telling her everything. She held him tight. "The flame lies, child. It wants to pull you into the void, where souls burn forever." They put out the fire, but the room smelled of smoke and secrets. From then on, Elias felt changed. His dreams were filled with cosmic sights, galaxies spinning like tops, comets trailing whispers. He drew pictures of what he saw, strange shapes that made his friends uneasy. One drawing showed a flame with his face inside, smiling. Grandma burned it, but the image stayed in his mind. As autumn leaves fell, Elias noticed changes in the town. Dogs howled at nothing. Birds flew in odd patterns like arrows pointing to the sky. Folks whispered of strange lights in the forest, blue glows that moved like living things. Elias knew it was the flame's kin, calling others. He wondered if he was the only one who heard his name. One night, unable to sleep, he went to the window. Stars twinkled above, brighter than usual. One star seemed to pulse, like a heartbeat. "Elias," he heard, not from the candle, but from inside his head. The flame had planted a seed, growing roots in his thoughts. He told Grandma the next day. Her face paled. "We must destroy it," she said. They took the candle to the backyard, digging a hole. But as they buried it, the ground shook lightly, like a sigh. Dirt glowed blue for a moment. Elias felt a tug, as if the earth wanted to pull him down too. Life went on, but Elias was different. He read old books in the library about stars and ancient myths. Tales of Gothic heroes facing cosmic evils, castles haunted by spirits from beyond. He learned words like abyss and eternal. but kept them secret. Friends noticed he stared at the sky too much, lost in thought. Winter came, snow blanketing the town like a white shroud. On a clear night, Elias sneaked out. He dug up the candle, hands numb from cold. Lighting it under the stars, the flame blazed high. "Welcome back," it whispered. This time it showed him a path, through the forest to a hidden clearing where a stone altar waited, carved with the same symbols. He walked, candle in hand, flame guiding like a lantern. Trees loomed tall, branches like bony fingers. Owls hooted warnings, but he ignored them. The clearing appeared, moonlit and still. The altar hummed, vibrating under his feet. Placing the candle on it, the flame grew enormous, touching the sky. Visions poured in, the birth of the universe in a big bang of fire, planets forming from dust, life sparking in oceans, but also darkness, voids where light feared to go. Beings, older than time, watched, their eyes like black holes. "Join us," they said through the flame. "Your name is written in the stars." Elias felt power surge through him. He could move things with his mind, make wind blow, call shadows to dance. But it hurt, like fire in his veins. He saw Grandma's face in his thoughts, worried and loving. "No," he whispered, blowing out the flame. Darkness fell, but the whispers didn't stop. They echoed in his soul now. He ran home, burying the candle deeper, but he knew it was too late. The flame had spoken his name, marking him for the cosmos. Months passed. Spring brought flowers, but Elias felt autumn in his heart. He helped Grandma in the garden, planting seeds that grew quick under his touch. Plants leaned toward him, as if listening. He dreamed of flying through space, body made of light, chasing stars. One day, a stranger came to town. Tall, cloaked, in black, face hidden. He asked about old relics, eyes gleaming like coals. Elias hid, but the man found him. "I hear the flame too," he said. "It calls many names." They talked in secret. The man was a wanderer, chasing cosmic secrets. He told of Gothic orders, hidden societies fighting the void. "The flame is a door," he said. "Open it wrong, and horrors come through." Elias showed him the buried spot. They dug it up together. The candle pulsed, alive. The man chanted words, old and strong. The flame lit without a match, screaming names. Elias felt pulled, body lifting off the ground. Visions hit hard, wars in the stars, flames devouring worlds, souls trapped in eternal loops, crying for release. He saw himself older, leading a fight against the dark. Pain exploded, but the man held him down. "Fight it!" he yelled. Elias pushed back, thinking of home, Grandma, simple joys. The flame dimmed, whispers fading. They smashed the candle with a rock, shards glowing, then going dark. Relief washed over him. But as the man left, he warned, "The cosmos remembers, more will come." Elias nodded, stronger now. He knew the flame's gift and curse. His name echoed in the stars, but he chose Earth. Yet at night, staring at the sky, he sometimes heard faint calls. The adventure had just begun. Chapter 2. Shadows of the Forgotten Star. Elias woke to a sky ablaze with streaks of light, like cracks in a dark bowl. Falling stars painted the night red, each one screaming as it tore through the air. He stood at his window, breath fogging the cold glass, heart thumping like a rabbit's. The town of Eldridge lay quiet below, its wooden houses hunched under the weight of the strange night. The forest beyond whispered, not with wind, but with something alive, something old. Elias felt it in his bones, a pull stronger than the candle's flame from that first night, the flame that spoke his name. He hadn't touched the candle since. Grandma buried it, but its whispers lingered, curling in his thoughts like smoke. Last night's dream was vivid. A red star falling, crashing into the forest, glowing like a wound. Now the sky mirrored that dream. One star fell closer, a fireball roaring over treetops, shaking the ground. It landed deep in the woods, where shadows were thickest. Elias knew he shouldn't go, but his feet itched to move. The flame had marked him, and this star felt like its kin. He grabbed his coat, a flashlight, and a knife from the kitchen, small but sharp. Grandma slept, her snores soft through the thin walls. Elias slipped out, the door creaking like a warning. The air outside was cold, smelling of wet earth and something sharp, like burnt metal. The forest loomed, trees leaning in as if to watch him pass. His flashlight beam danced, catching twisted branches that looked like fingers reaching for the sky. The path was narrow, overgrown with roots that tripped him twice. Owls hooted, their calls sharp and too human. Elias's heart raced, but he kept going, drawn by the glow ahead. It pulsed red, like a heartbeat, lighting the trees in bloody hues. He reached a clearing, smaller than the one with the altar, but heavy with the same strange hum. In the center lay a stone, black as coal, steaming in the cool air. It was no bigger than a loaf of bread, but it felt enormous, like it carried the weight of a mountain. Carved on its surface was a single word, Elias. He froze, skin prickling. The knife slipped in his sweaty hand. "Who's there?" he whispered, voice shaking. No answer, but the stone glowed brighter, casting shadows that moved without reason. They stretched long, twisting into shapes, people, animals, things with too many limbs. Elias stepped back, flashlight shaking. The shadows didn't follow the stone's light. They danced to their own rhythm, circling him. "Elias." A shadow whispered, voice like dry leaves. He spun, but nothing was there. Another shadow spoke, closer. "You called us." The words crawled into his ears, cold and heavy. He swung the flashlight, its beam cutting through the dark, but the shadows dodged, slipping into cracks of night. His name echoed again from all sides now, a chorus of whispers that made his head ache. He knelt by the stone, knife ready, though he didn't know what he'd fight. The symbols on it matched the candles, vines and stars, curling like they were alive. Touching it burned his fingers, not with heat, but with a cold so deep it stung. Pictures flooded his mind, like the candle's visions, but sharper. He saw a star, red and angry, spinning in a black void. It wasn't alone. Shapes moved around it, tall and thin, with eyes like holes. They sang in a tongue that hurt to hear, words bending time and space. The star cracked, spilling shadows that flew across galaxies, landing here in Eldridge. Elias yanked his hand away, gasping. The shadows closed in, their forms clearer now. One looked like a man, but his face was wrong, stretched like melted wax. Another was a dog, but its legs bent backward. They whispered lies. "You're alone. Grandma fears you. Your parents left because of you." Each word was a needle pricking his heart. He clutched the knife tighter, shouting, "Stop it!" He remembered the candle shard, a piece he'd kept hidden in his pocket after smashing it with the Wanderer. It was small, no bigger than a coin, but it hummed when he touched it. He pulled it out, holding it high. The shard glowed blue, faint but steady. The shadows hissed, retreating like smoke from a breeze. "Go away!" Elias yelled, voice cracking but strong. The shard's light flared, and the shadows screamed, dissolving into the air. The stone dimmed, its glow fading to a dull red. Elias stood, panting, legs wobbly. The clearing was quiet again, but the air felt heavy, like a storm was coming. He wanted to run home, but the stone called to him, soft as a lullaby. He touched it again, gentler this time. More visions came, slower, less painful. He saw the star's birth, a fiery explosion in a place where time didn't exist. It was alive, not just rock and fire, but something with a mind. It fell to earth to hide, to wait. It knew his name because it knew everyone's, collecting them like treasures. But it was broken, its pieces scattered, and the shadows were its memories, angry and lost. He backed away, heart heavy. The knife felt useless now, the flashlight dim. He tucked the shard back in his pocket, its warmth comforting. The walk home was long, the forest darker than before. Every snap of a twig made him jump, every shadow a threat. He thought of Grandma, her worried eyes. her stories of stars that hungered. She was right. The cosmos wasn't just pretty lights in the sky. It was alive, and it wanted something. At home, he slipped inside, quiet as a mouse. Grandma still slept, unaware of the night's chaos. Elias hid the shard under his pillow, its glow faint through the fabric. Sleep didn't come easy. Dreams brought the red star back, its shadows whispering his name. He saw himself running through the forest, but the trees were made of stars, their branches dripping light. The shadows chased, faster now, their lies louder. "You belong with us," they said. "Earth is too small." Morning came, gray and cold. Elias felt different, like a piece of him stayed in the clearing. His eyes, when he checked the mirror, were darker, with tiny red flecks like embers. Grandma noticed at breakfast, her spoon pausing mid-air. "You've been out," she said, voice sharp but sad. He nodded, too tired to lie. He told her about the star, the stone, the shadows. Her face paled, hands trembling as she set down her tea. "That star," she said, "it's one of the forgotten. Old tales speak of them, stars that fell when the world was young. They carry pieces of the dark, things that should stay buried." She grabbed his hand, checking his eyes. "You're marked, child. The shadows touched you." Elias shivered, remembering the lies. "They said you fear me," he whispered. Grandma hugged him tight, her warmth chasing away the cold. "Never," she said. "But I fear what calls you. The cosmos doesn't give gifts without a price." She made him promise to stay away from the forest, but promises were slippery now. The shard in his pocket hummed, begging to be held. That afternoon, he sat in the backyard, staring at the woods. Birds didn't sing today, and the air smelled of ash. He felt the shadow inside him, not gone, but hiding. It whispered when he was alone, soft and sneaky, telling him to return to the stone. He tried to ignore it, helping Grandma with chores. They baked bread, the kitchen warm with yeast and flour. But his hands moved slow, mind drifting to the clearing. The shard burned in his pocket like it wanted out. At night, he took it out, its blue glow lighting his room. It showed him glimpses. The Red Star's home, a place of endless night where shadows danced in rings. He saw himself there, older, taller, eyes glowing red. The sight scared him, but also thrilled him. What was he becoming? Days passed, and the town felt different. People moved slower, eyes darting to the sky. Dogs barked at nothing, cats hissed at corners. Elias's friends, Tim and Lila, noticed his quietness. "You okay?" Lila asked, her braids swinging as they walked to school. Elias shrugged, not wanting to scare her. Tim kicked a rock, saying, "You look like you saw a ghost." Elias laughed, but it sounded hollow. At school, lessons blurred. Numbers and words felt small compared to stars and shadows. During recess, he sneaked to the library, finding books on old myths. One spoke of forgotten stars, celestial prisons, for beings too dangerous for the cosmos. They fell to worlds like Earth, hiding in stones, waiting for someone to claim their power. The book warned of shadows, fragments of those beings, seeking hosts. Elias's stomach twisted. Was he a host? He went back to the forest that night, unable to resist. The shard guided him, glowing brighter as he neared the clearing. The stone was still there, but cracks ran through it now, oozing red light. Shadows flickered at the edges, less bold but still watching. "You're back," they whispered. "You can't run." Elias held the shard high, its blue light pushing them back. "I'm not yours," he said, voice steady, but doubt crept in. The eye shadow inside him stirred, whispering, "You're already ours." He felt it in his chest, a cold weight, like a stone sinking in water. He swung the shard like a sword, its light cutting through the dark. The shadows screamed, fading, but one clung to him, slipping into his shadow on the ground. He ran home, heart pounding. The shard dimmed, exhausted. Grandma was awake, waiting. "You went again," she said, not a question. He nodded, tears stinging. "Something's in me," he whispered. She held him, rocking like when he was little. "We'll fight it," she said. "You're stronger than the dark." She brewed tea with herbs that smelled of earth and memory. It calmed him, but the shadow stayed, quiet but present. Elias drew what he saw, filling pages with red stars, twisted shadows, and his own face, eyes glowing. Grandma kept them hidden, fearing they'd call more trouble. The town changed more. Lights flickered without reason, clocks ran backward. Old Mr. Hale, who lived by the forest, swore he saw shapes moving in the trees, tall and wrong. Kids at school whispered of nightmares all the same, red stars, whispering shadows. Elias knew it was his fault. The stone woke because of him, because he lit the candle. He met the wanderer again, the cloaked man, by chance at the town's edge. His eyes were tired like he hadn't slept in years. "You found a forgotten star," he said, voice low. "They're waking. Your name on that stone means you're tied to it." He taught Elias a chant, words that burned his tongue but strengthened his heart. "Use it when the shadows come," he said, "but they'll never stop." Elias practiced the chant, feeling power in its rhythm. It pushed the shadow in him down but didn't kill it. He felt split, part boy, part something else. Nights were worst, dreams pulling him to the red star's home. He saw battles there, shadows fighting flames, both wanting him. He woke screaming, Grandma rushing in. One night, the shadow inside spoke clear. "Go to the stone," it said. "Claim the star." Elias refused, clutching the shard. Its light was weaker now, like it was tired too. He buried it under his bed, hoping to quiet it, but the forest called, louder each night. He went back, one last time, knife and shard in hand. The stone was splitting, red light spilling like blood. Shadows swarmed, bolder now, their lies sharper. "You're nothing," they said. "Join us, be everything." Elias chanted the wanderer's words, voice shaking but strong. The shard blazed, blue light clashing with red. Shadows burned, screaming as they vanished. But the shadow inside him grew, feeding on his fear. He stabbed the stone with the knife, cracks widening. It shattered, red light exploding, knocking him down. The shadows fled, but the one inside stayed, laughing soft. "You can't break me," it said. Elias staggered home, vision blurry. The town felt smaller, like a cage. Stars above pulsed, watching. He told Grandma everything, sobbing. She held him, whispering old songs. "You're still you," she said. "We'll keep fighting." But Elias felt the shadow settle deeper, a seed growing roots. His eyes glowed red in the mirror, faint but there. The shard was cold now, its light gone. He hid it, fearing its power. School, friends, chores, all felt distant. The cosmos was close, its whispers loud. Weeks later, a new star fell, blue this time. Elias saw it from his window, heart sinking. The shadow stirred, excited. He knew more was coming, bigger than before. The forgotten star was only the start. Chapter 3. Echoes from the void. Elias couldn't shake the shadow inside him. It clung like damp cloth, heavy and cold, whispering when he tried to sleep. The town of Eldridge felt smaller every day, its dark wooden houses pressing in, their windows like eyes watching his every step. The forest loomed beyond, silent since the red star's stone shattered, but its quiet was wrong, like a held breath. Stars above glittered too bright, pulsing in patterns that made his head ache. He saw them even with eyes closed, etched in his mind like the candle's blue flame. Nights were worst. Sleep brought dreams of endless black, not the warm dark of a cozy room, but a cold void that stretched forever. In these dreams, Elias floated, weightless, his body a speck in an ocean of nothing. Voices called, not the flame's soft whisper or the shadow's cruel lies, but something deeper, older. They were cries, faint and desperate, like people trapped behind thick glass. "Help us," they said, over and over, their words tangling in his thoughts. He woke sweating, heart pounding, ears ringing with echoes that didn't fade. One night, the voices followed him into waking, He sat up in bed, the moon casting silver stripes through his curtains. "Elias," they whispered, not from outside, but inside his head. He clutched his pillow, knuckles white. The shadow inside stirred, chuckling low, like it knew something he didn't. He checked the mirror, half expecting red eyes, but they were still his own, brown and scared, though flecks of red lingered, glowing faintly in the dark. Grandma noticed his tiredness at breakfast. Her eyes, sharp despite her age, studied him over her tea. "You're not sleeping," she said, voice soft but firm. Elias poked at his oatmeal, unable to meet her gaze. "Just bad dreams," he mumbled. She set her cup down, the clink loud, in the quiet kitchen. "Dreams ain't just dreams, child. Not after what you've touched." She didn't say more, but her hands trembled as she poured more tea, spilling a little. Elias wanted to tell her about the voices, but fear stopped him. What if she locked him away, like the candle? Instead, he went to school, where lessons blurred into noise. His friends, Tim and Lila, tried to cheer him up, tossing a ball at recess. But Elias missed catches, his mind elsewhere. Lila frowned, her braids swinging. "You're acting weird again," she said. Tim nodded, kicking dirt. "Like you're seeing ghosts." Elias forced a smile, but it felt like a mask. He saw ghosts, all right, but not the kind they meant. After school, he wandered to the town library, a squat building with dusty windows and shelves that smelled of old paper. He'd been coming here since the Red Star, hunting answers in books about myths and stars. Today, he found a thin volume, its cover cracked leather, titled Tales of the Cosmic Veil. The pages were brittle, words faded, but one story caught his eye. The Void's Echoes. It told of a place where the universe's edges frayed, letting voices of lost souls slip through. These echoes, the book said, were trapped between worlds, neither dead nor alive, crying for freedom. Those who heard them were marked, drawn to rifts where the void touched earth. Elias's hands shook as he read. The book described a cave near Eldridge, hidden deep in the forest, where the ground hummed with strange energy. People who entered never came back whole, their minds broken by what they saw. The cave was called the Hollow, a place where stars and shadows met. Elias slammed the book shut, heart racing. He knew where to go. That night, he waited until Grandma's snores filled. The house. He grabbed his flashlight, the knife, and the candle shard, which no longer glowed but felt warm, like it remembered its fire. The forest was dark, the air thick with mist that curled around his ankles. Trees leaned closer, branches scraping, his coat like bony fingers. The path to the hollow was unmarked, but the shard pulsed in his pocket, guiding him like a compass. Owls hooted, their calls sharp, but the voices in his head were louder, urging him forward. The cave appeared suddenly, a jagged mouth in a rocky hill. Its entrance was narrow, barely wide enough for Elias to slip through. Inside, the air was cold, smelling of wet stone and something sour, like old fear. His flashlight beam danced on, walls that shimmered, not with water, but with a strange light, like oil on a puddle. The walls pulsed, slow and steady, like a giant heart. Elias's breath hitched, the voices growing clearer. "Help us," they said. "Set us free." He walked deeper, the tunnel sloping down. The shard grew warmer, almost burning. Shadows moved at the edges of his light, not the Red Star's cruel ones, but softer, sadder, like ghosts of people long gone. They reached for him, hands dissolving when they touched his beam. Elias's heart ached. He wanted to help, but fear rooted him. What if freeing them meant losing himself? The tunnel opened into a chamber vast and round, its ceiling lost in dark. In the center stood a mirror, tall as a man, its frame carved with the same vine and star symbols as the candle and stone. Its surface didn't reflect the cave, but showed a swirling void, black with flecks of light like distant stars. Elias's face stared back, but not alone. Other faces crowded the glass, pale and hollow, their mouths moving without sound. "Elias," they whispered, their voices echoing in his skull. He stepped closer, unable to resist. The shard burned, and he held it up, its faint warmth his only comfort. The mirror's surface rippled, and a hand reached out, cold fingers brushing his. He yelped, pulling back, but the voices grew frantic. "Don't leave us," they begged. "We're trapped." Elias's eyes stung with tears. He saw his parents in the mirror, their faces young and sad, waving from the void. "Mom, Dad," he whispered, heartbreaking. The shadow inside him stirred, laughing. "They're not real," it said. "Lies to pull you in." Elias clenched his fists, torn. He wanted to believe, but Grandma's warnings rang true. The cosmos lied. He touched the mirror again, and visions flooded him. He saw the void's birth, a tear in the universe where souls fell, caught like flies in a web. They weren't dead, but stuck, their cries echoing across worlds. The mirror was a door, and Elias's name was the key. He spoke the Wanderer's chant, the words burning his tongue. The mirror shook, cracks forming. Faces screamed, some angry, some pleading. Elias kept chanting, voice shaking but strong. The shard pulsed, its light flickering back to life. He pressed it to the mirror, and the glass shattered, shards flying like stars. The voices screamed, then faded, replaced by a deep silence that hurt his ears. Elias fell to his knees, gasping. The chamber was dark now, the walls still. The shard was cold, its power spent. He felt lighter, like a weight lifted but also empty, like part of him broke with the mirror. The voices were gone, but one stayed, faint and inside him. "You left me," it said, not angry, but sad. Elias shivered, knowing he'd trapped something in himself when he broke the mirror. He stumbled out of the cave, the forest quieter now. Stars above were dim, as if morning. At home, Grandma was awake, her face pale. "You went to the hollow," she said, voice trembling. Elias nodded, too tired to speak. He showed her the shard, now just a dull rock. She took it, locking it, in a box with the candle. "You're brave, child," she said, "but bravery has costs." Elias slept, but dreams were different now. The void was closer, its edges touching his mind. He saw himself in the mirror, not one but many, each Elias slightly wrong, eyes too big, hands too long. The shadow inside whispered, "You're one of us now." He woke screaming, Grandma rushing in. She brewed her herbal tea, its warmth grounding him, but the shadow stayed, stronger since the cave. Days blurred. The town felt off, clocks ticking unevenly, lights flickering. People whispered of dreams, all the same, black voids, crying voices. Elias knew he'd stirred something, waking the cosmos. His friends noticed his silence. Lila hugged him one day, saying, "You don't have to fight alone." Tim nodded, but his eyes were wary. Elias wanted to tell them, but the shadow stopped him, whispering doubts. "They'll hate you." He went back to the library, finding more in the tales of the cosmic veil. The hollow wasn't just a cave, but a rift, one of many where the universe leaked. Breaking the mirror closed it, but at a price. A piece of Elias stayed in the void, and a piece of the void stayed in him. The book warned of echoes growing stronger, seeking bodies to escape. Elias's chest tightened. Was he a door? Now, he kept the knife close, its weight a comfort. Nights were spent staring at the sky, stars pulsing like they knew him. The shadow whispered lies. "Grandma's scared of you. Your friends will leave." Elias fought it, chanting the Wanderer's words, but they were weaker now, like a fading song. The shadow laughed, growing bolder. One evening, a storm hit, thunder shaking the house. Elias felt the void's pull stronger than ever. He sneaked to the forest, drawn to the hollow's entrance. It was sealed, rocks collapsed, but the air hummed, alive. He touched the ground, and visions came, the void spreading, swallowing towns, stars winking out. He saw himself leading it, eyes red, shadow free. He yanked his hand away, heart racing. Back home, he told Grandma everything. Her face crumpled, but she held him tight. "We'll fight it," she said, voice fierce. She gave him an old necklace, a stone carved with protective runes. It warmed his skin, pushing the shadow down. "You're stronger than it," she said. Elias nodded, wanting to believe, but the shadow grew, feeding on his doubt. At school, he snapped at Tim, words sharp and mean. Lila cried, confused. Elias hated himself, feeling the shadow's grin. He drew the void in his notebook, pages filled with swirling black and crying faces. Grandma burned them, but the images stayed, burned into his mind. The wanderer returned one night, cloak wet from rain. "You closed the hollow," he said, eyes gleaming. "But you opened something else." He taught Elias a new chant, harder to say, its words twisting like smoke. "Use it when the void calls," he said. "It'll keep you whole." Elias practiced, tongue stumbling, but the chant helped, quieting the shadow. Weeks passed, the town uneasy. Dogs howled at nothing, birds flew in spirals. Elias felt eyes on him, not human, but cosmic. Stars blinked in patterns, spelling his name. He knew the void wasn't done. The echoes were quiet but waiting. One night, a blue light glowed in the forest, not a star, but something else. Elias felt it call, the shadow excited. He gripped the necklace, chanting low. The fight wasn't over. The void had his name, and it was patient. Chapter 4. The Cursed Manor in the Cosmos. Elias's dreams no longer belonged to him. Each night the void tightened its grip, pulling him from his bed in Eldridge to a place beyond the stars. The shadow inside him, born from the red star and strengthened in the hollow, hummed with excitement, like a dog eager for a hunt. The town felt like a distant memory, its creaky houses and foggy streets fading against the vastness of his dreams. Stars pulsed above, no longer just lights but eyes, watching, waiting. Elias felt their gaze even in daylight, a weight pressing on his chest. One night, the dream changed. Instead of floating in the endless black of the void, Elias stood on solid ground, or what passed for it. The ground shimmered like polished obsidian, reflecting a sky of swirling purples and greens, colors that twisted his stomach. Before him loomed a manor, massive and wrong, its towers spiraling upward like thorns piercing the cosmos. Its walls were black stone carved with symbols, vines and stars, like the candle, like the red stone, like the hollow's mirror. Windows glowed with sickly yellow light, flickering as if alive. The air hummed, not with sound, but with a feeling, like the universe itself was breathing. Elias's body was asleep in his bed. He knew that, but this felt real. His bare feet felt the cold stone, his breath fogged in the airless chill. The shadow inside him stirred, whispering, "This is home." He shivered, clutching the rune-carved necklace Grandma gave him. Its warmth was faint, a candle against a storm. The manor's doors, tall and arched, creaked open without a touch. Shadows moved inside, beckoning. He stepped forward, heart pounding, like a drum. The foyer was vast, its ceiling lost in darkness. Chandeliers hung, dripping crystals that glowed without fire, casting jagged shadows. Paintings lined the walls, their frames twisted like melted metal. The faces in them moved, eyes following Elias, mouths opening to whisper his name. "Elias," they said, voices overlapping, soft as silk, sharp as knives. He recognized some. His parents, young and pale, their eyes sad. Others were strangers, old and young, human and not, their faces shifting like smoke. The shadow inside laughed, low and cruel. "They're trapped," it said, "like you." Elias gripped the necklace, tighter, its runes digging into his palm. He wanted to run, but his feet moved forward, drawn deeper into the manor. Hallways stretched, bending in ways that hurt his eyes, doors leading to rooms that shouldn't fit. One room held a library, books floating, pages turning themselves. Words crawled off pages, buzzing like bees, forming his name in the air. Another room was a ballroom, empty but alive with music, a slow waltz that made his bones ache. Shadows danced, their forms half human, half starlight. They reached for him, hands cold as space. "Join us," they whispered. Elias ran, heart racing, but the hallway looped, bringing him back to the same room. The dancers laughed, their voices echoing in his skull. He found a staircase, spiraling up to a tower. Each step groaned, whispering secrets. "The stars are hungry. Time is a lie. You belong here." The shadow inside nodded, agreeing. Elias fought it, chanting the wanderer's words, the ones that pushed the shadow down. The necklace warmed, giving him strength, but the manor fought back, its walls pulsing like a heart. At the tower's top was a throne, carved from black stone, glowing with inner fire. On it sat a figure, tall and cloaked, its face hidden in shadow. Its eyes were flames, blue like the candles, red like the stars. "Elias," it said, voice deep as the void. "You've come home." The shadow inside him surged, trying to pull him forward. Elias froze, torn. The figure offered a hand and visions flooded him. Power to shape stars, to bend time, to bring back his parents. "Sit," it said. "Be king of the cosmos." Elias saw himself on the throne, eyes glowing. The manor his castle, the stars his subjects. He saw worlds bow, galaxies spin at his command. But he also saw Earth crumble, Eldridge swallowed by void, Grandma's face fading into dust. "No," he whispered, stepping back. The figure's flames flared, angry. "You can't refuse," it said. "Your name is ours." The shadow inside clawed, trying to force his legs forward. Elias chanted louder, the wanderer's words burning his throat. The necklace blazed, hot against his skin. The figure screamed, a sound that shook the manor, cracking walls. Elias ran, stairs crumbling behind him. Doors opened to voids, black and endless, but he dodged, following the necklace's warmth. A portal appeared, a ring of blue light, and he leapt through, waking in his bed, gasping. His room was dark, the moon hidden by clouds. The necklace was cold now, its runes dull. Elias touched his hand, finding a mark, 3 stars in a triangle, burned into his skin. It glowed faintly, then faded, but he felt it, like a brand. The shadow inside was quiet, but stronger, waiting. He didn't tell Grandma, fearing her worry. Instead, he drew the manor in his notebook, its towers and glowing windows, hoping to trap it on paper. Days passed, but the manor haunted him. At school, he zoned out, seeing its hallways instead of chalkboards. Tim and Lila noticed, their questions sharper. "You're scaring us," Lila said, her eyes wide. Tim nodded, quieter than usual. Elias wanted to explain, but the shadow whispered, "They'll run." He stayed silent, pulling away. The town felt wrong. Clocks ran slow, lights flickered in patterns like the manor's chandeliers. People dreamed of towers in the sky, waking with screams. Elias knew it was his fault. The manor was leaking, its doors opening in his mind. He went to the library, finding more in tales of the cosmic veil. The manor was a prison, built by ancient beings to hold those who defied the stars. Its doors were gates, linking worlds, trapping souls. Those who entered carried its curse, marked forever. Elias's mark itched, a reminder. He dreamed of the manor every night, each visit clearer. The figure on the throne grew bolder, showing him, his parents, alive in the manor's halls. "Join us," they said, voices sweet but wrong. The shadow urged him to listen, but Elias fought, waking with screams. Grandma brewed her teas, stronger now, their bitterness grounding him. "You're slipping," she said, eyes wet. "Fight it, child." He tried, but the manor called. One night, he found a new room in the dream, a chapel with stained glass, windows showing stars eating worlds. Shadows knelt, chanting his name. The figure appeared, offering a crown of fire. "Take it," it said. "Free your family." Elias saw his parents again, closer, their hands reaching. Tears fell, but he remembered Grandma's words. The cosmos lies. He refused, running through collapsing halls, waking with the mark burning. The next day, the wanderer returned, his cloak tattered, eyes haunted. "You've seen the manor," he said, touching Elias's hand where the mark hid. "It's a trap, built to hold names like yours." He gave Elias a new chant, words that twisted like the manor's halls. "Say it when the throne calls," he said. "It'll keep you free." Elias practiced, the words heavy, but they pushed the shadow down like locking a door. The town grew stranger. Birds flew in circles, dogs dug at nothing. Old Mr. Hale swore he saw a tower in the sky, black and twisted. Kids at school drew the manor without knowing why, their pictures crude but exact. Elias hid his own drawings, fearing they'd spread the curse. The shadow laughed, growing bolder, whispering during the day. "Go back," it said. "Claim the throne." Elias fought it, chanting, clutching the necklace. But the manor's pull was strong. One night, he woke standing in his room, hand on the door, sleepwalking toward the forest. Grandma caught him, her grip fierce. "You're not theirs," she said, tying the necklace tighter. She burned sage, its smoke thick, and prayed old words. Elias felt the shadow shrink, but it didn't leave. He went to the forest, not to the hollow, but to the altar where the candle burned. It was quiet, but the air hummed like the manor's walls. He spoke the new chant, feeling power in his voice. The mark glowed, then dimmed, but the shadow stayed, whispering, "You can't escape." Elias knew it was right. The manor was in him now, its doors open in his mind. Weeks passed, the dreams relentless. Each night the manor changed. New rooms, new horrors. A garden of flowers made of starlight, their petals cutting like glass. A clock that ticked backward, each second stealing his breath. The figure's offers grew sweeter. Power, family, eternity. Elias refused, but each refusal weakened him, the shadow growing fat on his fear. One day, Lila found his notebook, its pages filled with the manor. "What is this?" she asked, scared but curious. Elias snatched it back, heart racing. "Nothing," he lied, but her eyes lingered, knowing. Tim joined them, quieter now, his trust fading. Elias felt alone, the manor his only constant. The wanderer's chant helped, but not enough. The mark burned at night, waking him. He saw the manor in daylight now, faint at the edges of his vision, its towers piercing the sky. The shadow whispered, "It's real." Elias feared it was. One night, a storm raged, lightning cracking like the manor's walls. Elias dreamed of a new door, leading to a room where his parents stood, smiling. "Come home," they said. The figure appeared, crown in hand. Elias reached, then stopped, Grandma's face in his mind. He chanted, waking as thunder roared. The mark glowed brighter, a warning. The manor wasn't just a dream, it was coming, and Elias was its key. Chapter 5. Secrets Buried in Light. Elias's world felt like it was shrinking, squeezed by the weight of the cosmos. The town of Eldridge, with its sagging houses and foggy streets, seemed more like a dream than the nightmares that now ruled his sleep. The shadow inside him, planted by the red star and fed by the hollow's void, grew heavier each day, whispering, doubts that stuck like burrs. The manor from his dreams, with its twisted towers and fiery throne, lingered in his waking thoughts, its windows glowing behind his eyes. The rune-carved necklace from Grandma helped, its warmth a faint shield. But it wasn't enough. The stars above pulsed, calling his name, and Elias knew they weren't done with him. Spring had come, but the air stayed cold, as if winter clung to the town. Elias spent his days helping Grandma in the garden, planting seeds that sprouted too fast, their leaves curling toward him like they knew him. He tried to act normal, laughing with Tim and Lila at school, but his smiles felt fake. His eyes, flecked with red since the red star, scared his friends when they noticed. "You look different," Lila said one day, her braids swinging as she frowned. Tim nodded, quieter than usual, kicking dirt. "Like you're not all here." Elias shrugged, the shadow whispering, They're right. At night, the dreams were relentless. The manor's halls twisted into new shapes, rooms filled with starlight that burned his skin. The figure on the throne, with its flaming eyes, promised power, family, eternity. Elias woke sweating, clutching the necklace, chanting the wanderers, words to push the shadow down. But the chants grew weaker, like a song fading in the wind. The mark on his hand, 3 stars in a triangle, itched, glowing faintly when he was alone. One sunny afternoon, Elias was digging in the garden, helping Grandma plant potatoes. His shovel hit something hard, not a rock, but something smooth. He brushed away dirt, revealing a small orb, no bigger than an apple, glowing with a soft white light. It hummed, warm under his fingers, and the shadow inside him stirred, excited. "What's that?" Grandma asked, her voice sharp. Elias held it up, its light making his eyes sting. "Just a stone," he lied, slipping it into his pocket. Grandma's eyes narrowed, but she said nothing, turning back to her work. That night, alone in his room, Elias studied the orb. It pulsed like a heartbeat, its light shifting, white, then blue, then red, like the stars he'd seen. He touched it, and his mind exploded with pictures, stars bursting into life, planets spinning from dust, beings of light walking across galaxies. Knowledge poured in, how stars died in fiery blasts, how time folded in black holes, how life sparked in cosmic seas. It was beautiful, but it hurt, like his head was too small to hold it all. He dropped the orb, gasping, his nose bleeding. The shadow laughed. "More. Find more." Elias hid the orb under his bed next to the dull candle shard. Sleep brought visions of the orb's secrets, formulas for bending light, words to call comets, maps of worlds hidden in the sky. He woke with a headache, his hands shaking as he wrote what he remembered. The pages filled with strange symbols, half drawn from memory, half pulled from the orb. Grandma found him writing, her face pale. "What are you doing, child?" she asked, snatching the notebook. She burned it in the fireplace, the flames hissing. "That's no good for you," she said, but Elias saw fear in her eyes. The next day, he dug again, alone this time. The garden yielded more orbs, 5 in all, each glowing brighter than the last. He hid them in a tin box under a loose floorboard, their light leaking through cracks at night. Touching them brought more knowledge. How to speak to stars, how to walk through voids, how to see the past and future. But each touch hurt worse, his head throbbing, his eyes burning. The shadow grew stronger, whispering, "Use it. Be more than human." Elias fought it, clutching the necklace, but the orbs called, their light a song he couldn't ignore. At school, he drifted, lessons meaningless compared to the orb's truths. Tim and Lila tried to reach him, but the shadow made him snap. "Leave me alone!" Lila's eyes welled up, and Tim looked away. Elias hated himself, but the orbs were all he could think about. He sneaked to the library, finding tales of the cosmic veil again. A chapter spoke of light bearers, orbs of ancient power buried by star wanderers to hide their secrets. Those who touched them gained wisdom but lost themselves, their minds burned by cosmic truths. Elias's heart sank. Was he losing himself? He went home, determined to bury the orbs deeper. But as he dug, one rolled free, its light flaring. The shadow surged, forcing his hand to touch it. Knowledge flooded in, the birth of the universe, a bang of light and fire, beings older than time, their thoughts shaping galaxies, voids that ate light, hungry for more. His head split with pain, blood dripping from his nose. He screamed, dropping the orb. Grandma ran out, her face white. "Elias, stop!" she yelled, grabbing the orb. It burned her hand and she dropped it, cursing. They buried the orbs in the forest, far from the house under a pile of rocks. Grandma chanted old words, her voice shaking, sealing the ground with runes scratched in dirt. "These ain't for us," she said. "They're from the stars, meant to tempt." Elias nodded, guilt heavy in his chest, but the shadow whispered, "You'll go back." He feared it was right. That night, the orb's light haunted his dreams. He saw himself digging them up, using their power to open doors to the stars. The manor appeared, its throne glowing with the same light. The figure offered a crown, saying, "This is your birthright." Elias woke, heart racing, the mark on his hand burning. He checked the floorboard. The tin box was still there, but one orb was missing. Panic gripped him. Had he taken it in his sleep? He searched the house, finding nothing. Grandma was asleep, unaware. At dawn, a bright flash lit the sky, like a star exploding. Elias ran outside, the town awake with shouts. People pointed upward, where a white light hung, pulsing. It wasn't a star, but an orb, grown huge, floating above the forest. Townsfolk whispered, "God's angry. The end's coming." Elias knew it was his fault. The orb had escaped, woken by his touch. He ran to the forest, the shadow urging him on. The orb hovered over the burial site, its light blinding. Elias shielded his eyes, chanting the wanderer's words. The necklace warmed, but the orb's light was stronger, pulling him closer. Visions came, worlds burning, stars screaming, himself as a god, eyes glowing white. The shadow cheered, "Yes!" Elias fell to his knees, fighting it. "No," he whispered, clutching the necklace. Grandma appeared, breathless, holding a shovel. "We gotta stop it," she said. They dug, finding the other orbs, their light dimmer now. Grandma smashed them with the shovel, each one bursting into sparks. The floating orb pulsed, angry, then exploded, light flooding the forest. Trees glowed, then faded, leaves falling like ash. The town saw, people screaming, running to churches. Elias and Grandma hid, hearts pounding. Back home, Grandma locked the last orb in her iron box, chanting over it. "This ends now," she said. But Elias felt the shadow grin. The knowledge stayed, burning in his mind. He saw stars when he closed his eyes, heard their songs in the wind. The mark on his hand glowed brighter, a constant reminder. Days passed, the town in chaos. Preachers called it judgment. Old folks blamed witches. Elias stayed quiet, guilt eating him. Lila and Tim came by, worried. "What happened?" Lila asked. Elias shook his head, the shadow stopping his words. Tim frowned. "You're hiding something." They left, and Elias felt more alone. The wanderer returned, his cloak torn, eyes wild. "You woke the light bearers," he said, touching the mark on Elias's hand. "They're keys to the cosmos, and you turned one." He gave Elias a new chant, words that stung like nettles. "Use it to lock the light away," he said. Elias practiced, the words heavy, pushing the shadow down. But the knowledge stayed, tempting him with power. Nights were worse. Dreams showed him as a Star Lord, bending light, ruling voids. The manor's throne called, its light the same as the orbs. Elias woke chanting, the necklace hot. Grandma watched him, eyes sad. "You're fighting hard," she said, brewing tea that smelled of earth. It helped, but the shadow whispered, "You'll break." One day, digging in the yard, Elias found another orb, smaller, hidden deep. He didn't tell Grandma. He hid it in his room, its light faint but calling. Touching it brought less pain, but more secrets. How to open gates, how to call the manor. The shadow urged, "Do it." Elias resisted, but his hands shook, wanting to obey. The town grew stranger. Flowers bloomed black. Birds sang backward. People saw lights in the sky, not stars, but orbs, watching. Elias knew he'd stirred something bigger. The shadow laughed, growing bold. He chanted, clutching the necklace, but the orb's light was stronger, pulling him toward the stars. One night, a storm hit, lightning flashing like the orb's explosion. Elias dreamed of the manor, the throne empty, waiting. The figure whispered, "Claim the light." He woke, standing in the garden, orb in hand, sleepwalking again. Grandma caught him, her face fierce. "You're stronger than this," she said, smashing the orb. Its light died, but the shadow stayed, laughing. Elias knew the fight wasn't over. The orbs were gone, but their secrets lived in him, burning bright. The cosmos watched, patient, hungry for his name. Chapter 6. The Eternal Night's Call. Ew. Air in Eldridge grew thick, like the town was holding its breath. Elias felt it everywhere, on his skin, in his lungs, in the way the trees leaned closer, their shadows too long for the pale spring sun. The orbs were gone, smashed and buried, but their light lingered in his mind, burning with secrets he couldn't unlearn. The shadow inside him, fed by the red star, the hollow's void, and the manor's throne, was bolder now, whispering even in daylight. "You're ours," it said, its voice like gravel in his chest. The rune-carved necklace from Grandma was his only anchor, its warmth fading as the cosmos tightened its grip. Elias tried to be normal, kicking stones with Tim and Lila on the way to school, but his heart wasn't in it. His eyes, flecked with red and now faintly white from the orbs, scared them. Lila's frown deepened daily, her braid swinging as she asked, "What's wrong? With you?" Tim stayed quiet, his usual chatter gone, his eyes darting to Elias like he was a stranger. The shadow fed on their distance, whispering, "They'll leave you." Elias pushed it down, clutching the necklace, but it was like fighting a river with his hands. Then came the eclipse. It wasn't in the almanac, not whispered in the town's gossip. One morning the sun rose, then dimmed, swallowed by a black disk that turned day to night. Stars blazed, brighter than ever, pulsing like heartbeats. Eldridge froze, people staring upward, faces pale. Dogs howled, cats hid, birds fell silent. Elias felt the shadow surge, excited, as if the dark was its home. The air hummed, not with sound but with a pull, like the manor's halls calling him back. Grandma pulled him inside, barring the door. "Stay away from the windows," she said, her voice sharp, eyes wide. "This ain't natural." She lit candles, not the cursed one, but plain wax ones, their flames weak against the eternal night. Elias's mark, 3 stars in a triangle, burned on his hand, glowing faintly white. He hid it under his sleeve, heart pounding. The shadow whispered, "Go outside, see the truth." He didn't listen, but the pull was strong. Through the curtains he glimpsed shapes moving in the dark, tall, thin, with too many limbs, their eyes like voids. They weren't shadows like the red stars, but something worse, born from the eclipse's night. They scratched at doors, their whispers joining the shadows. "Elias, come out." Grandma chanted old words, her hands shaking as she sprinkled salt across the floor. "Keep them out," she muttered, but Elias saw fear in her eyes, deeper than ever. The eclipse didn't end. Hours stretched, the sky black, stars glaring. Townsfolk gathered in the square, praying, shouting. Elias peeked out, seeing torches flicker, useless against the dark. The shapes moved closer, slipping between houses, their whispers a chorus now. "Join us. Free us." Elias's head ached, the shadow urging him to obey. He clutched the necklace, chanting the wanderer's words, but they felt hollow, like shouting into a storm. Tim and Lila banged on the door, breathless. "It's bad out there," Tim said, his voice shaking. Lila's eyes were wide, her braid frayed. "Something's in the dark," she whispered. Elias let them in, guilt heavy. This was his fault, the candle, the star, the orbs. He'd woken, the cosmos, and now it was here. Grandma gave them tea, her hands steadying, but her eyes stayed on Elias, knowing. The night stretched, endless. The shapes grew bolder, clawing at windows, their whispers turning to screams. Elias saw them clearer now, creatures of shadow and starlight, their bodies twisting like smoke, eyes hungry for light. They wanted him, his name a beacon. The shadow inside laughed, their family. Elias shook his head, chanting louder, but the necklace grew cold, its power fading. "We gotta fight," he said, voice trembling. Grandma nodded, pulling out an old book, its pages yellowed, filled with runes. "Light keeps them back," she said. "Fire, not starlight." Elias rallied Tim and Lila, their fear mixing with his own. They gathered wood, lanterns, anything that burned. The town was chaos, people hiding or praying, but Elias led his friends to the square, where the creatures swarmed. They built a bonfire, its flames roaring high, casting orange light. The creatures hissed, retreating, their eyes glowing like dying stars. Elias felt the shadow fight, trying to douse the fire in his mind. He chanted, holding the necklace, its runes sparking. Tim threw wood. Lila lit torches, their faces set despite fear. "We're with you," Lila said, her voice steady. Elias's heart lifted, but the shadow whispered, "They'll die for you." The fire held the creatures back, but they circled, relentless. Hours passed, the eclipse unending. Townsfolk joined, bringing more wood, their prayers mixing with Elias's chants. The flames grew, a wall of light, but the creatures adapted, slipping through cracks in the dark. One grabbed Tim, its claws like ice. Elias screamed, lunging with a torch, its light burning the creature to ash. Tim fell, pale but alive, his eyes wide. "What are they?" he gasped. Elias didn't answer, guilt choking him. The night wore on, battles raging. Elias led, chanting, wielding fire like a sword. The shadow fought, whispering lies. "You're weak. You'll fail." But Lila's hand on his arm, Tim's shaky grin, kept him going. They burned barrels, old furniture, anything to keep the light alive. The creatures screamed, their voices echoing the hollow's cries, the manor's whispers. Elias saw the throne in his mind, the figure laughing. "This is your test," it said. Dawn should have come, but didn't. The eclipse held, stars pulsing faster. Elias's mark burned, his head splitting with visions. The creature's home, a void where light died, their hunger endless. They weren't just here for him, they wanted all light, all life. Eldridge was just the start. He rallied the town, shouting orders, his voice stronger than he felt. "More fire!" he yelled, and people obeyed, fear turning to fight. But the cost came. Old Mr. Hale, who'd seen the manor's towers, lit a torch too close and was grabbed, his scream cut short, as a creature pulled him into the dark. Lila cried, Tim froze, but Elias pushed on, guilt like a stone in his chest. He saw Mr. Hale in his mind, trapped in the void, eyes empty. The shadow laughed. "Your fault." The bonfire roared, but the creatures kept coming, their numbers growing. Elias's chants weakened, the necklace cold. Grandma appeared, her book open, chanting louder than him. "You're stronger than this," she said, her voice cutting through the dark. She threw salt into the fire, its flames flaring blue, like the candles. The creatures screamed, burning, but more came, endless. Elias saw a pattern in the stars, a spiral like the manor's halls. He climbed a roof, torch in hand, staring up. The shadow whispered, "Join them." But Elias focused on the necklace, its runes glowing faintly. He spoke the wanderer's new chant, the one from the orbs, its words like fire in his throat. The stars pulsed, then dimmed, the eclipse weakening. The creatures shrieked, retreating, their bodies dissolving into mist. Light returned, faint at first, then bright. The sun broke through, the eclipse gone. Townsfolk cheered, hugging, crying. Elias fell to his knees exhausted, the mark on his hand dull. Tim and Lila helped him down, their faces pale but smiling. "You did it," Lila said. Elias shook his head. "We did it." But the cost lingered. Mr. Hale was gone, his house empty. Others whispered of missing friends, taken in the night. Elias knew the truth. They were in the void, their screams joining the hollow's echoes. The shadow inside him was quiet, but stronger, fed by the dark. Grandma watched him, her eyes sad. "You fought well," she said, "but it ain't over." The town tried to heal, people rebuilt, prayed, avoided the forest. Elias helped, but guilt weighed him down. He drew the creatures in his notebook, their twisted forms, their void eyes. Grandma burned the pages, but the images stayed, burned into his mind. Tim and Lila stayed close, their trust shaky, but real. "We're here," Tim said, his voice soft, Elias nodded, wanting to believe. The wanderer returned, his cloak blacker, eyes haunted. "You held the night," he said, touching Elias's mark. "But the eternal night's just begun." He gave a new chant, words that twisted like smoke, sharp as knives. "Use it when the stars call," he said. Elias practiced, the words cutting his tongue, but they pushed the shadow down, locking it tight. Nights were quiet now, but wrong. Stars didn't twinkle, they stared. Elias felt them, their hunger growing. The shadow whispered, "They're coming back." He knew it was true. The eclipse was a warning, a taste of what waited. He clutched the necklace, chanting, but the mark burned, a reminder of his tie to the cosmos. One night, a new light appeared, green and cold, pulsing in the forest. Elias saw it from his window, the shadow excited. He knew what it meant. Another gate, another call. The eternal night wasn't done, and neither was he. Chapter 7. Visions of the Ancient Fire. Elias woke with a start, his breath catching like he'd been running through the stars. The room was dark, the moon hidden behind thick clouds, but his eyes burned with the afterglow of a dream that felt too real. The eternal night of the eclipse was gone, but its shadow lingered in Eldridge, in the way the town's lights flickered and the air carried a chill no spring sun could warm. The shadow inside Elias, fed by the red star, the hollow's void, the manor's throne, and the orb's light, was a constant weight, whispering even now. "You can't run," it said, its voice a low hum in his chest. The rune-carved necklace from Grandma hung heavy around his neck, its warmth weaker each day, barely holding the shadow at bay. The dreams had changed since the eclipse, no longer just the manor's twisted halls or the void's endless black. They now burned with fire, ancient, alive, and speaking. Last night, Elias saw a flame vast as a galaxy, its light red and blue, pulsing like a heart. It spoke his name, not in whispers, but in a roar that shook his bones. It showed him wars in the stars, battles older than Earth, where flames fought shadows, each claiming the cosmos. Elias was there, not as a boy, but as something more, his hands wielding fire, his eyes glowing with starlight. The shadow inside him cheered, but the necklace burned, pulling him awake. He sat up, sweat soaking his shirt. His mark, 3 stars in a triangle, glowed faintly on his hand, then faded. He touched it, feeling a spark, like the orb's light. Grandma's snores drifted through the house, steady but distant. Elias slipped out of bed, needing air. The window showed a sky too bright, stars pulsing in patterns that spelled his name. He shivered, remembering the eclipse's creatures, their void eyes hungry for light. The town was quiet but wrong. Dogs didn't bark, birds didn't sing. Eldridge felt like a held breath, waiting for the next cosmic blow. At breakfast, Grandma's eyes lingered on him, sharp despite the early hour. "You're dreaming again," she said, setting down her tea. Elias nodded, poking at his oatmeal. "Fire this time," he mumbled, afraid to say more. Her face tightened, lines deepening. "Fire's dangerous, child. It don't just burn, it knows." She told him a story, one she'd kept back. Long ago, before Eldridge, a fire fell from the sky. Not a star, but something older, a flame born in the universe's heart. It spoke to those who found it, teaching secrets, how to shape light, bend time, walk between worlds. But its price was high. Those who learned grew old too fast, their bodies crumbling as their minds burned. "Your uncle heard it," she said, voice low. "It took him." Elias's heart sank. His uncle, the strange man in old photos, had chased the same fire. Was he doomed to follow? He went to school, but lessons blurred, the teacher's voice drowned by the shadow's whispers. "Find the fire." Tim and Lila tried to cheer him, tossing a ball at recess, but Elias missed catches, his mind in the stars. Lila frowned, her braids swinging. "You're slipping away," she said. Tim nodded, quieter since the eclipse. "We're losing you." Elias wanted to argue, but the shadow agreed and he stayed silent. After school, he went to the library, drawn to tales of the cosmic veil. The book was heavier now, its pages warm. A chapter spoke of the ancient fire, a force from the universe's dawn, born in the first explosion of light. It wasn't just flame, but a mind, teaching those who listened how to wield its power. It fought shadows in cosmic wars, but both were hungry, both dangerous. The fire chose champions, marking them with knowledge, but burned their souls to ash. Elias's mark itched, the shadow whispering, "That's you." He closed the book, heart racing. The fire's visions were gifts, but curses too. He felt them changing him. His hair had gray streaks now. His hands shook when he wrote. Grandma noticed, brewing stronger teas, their bitterness grounding him. "Stay here," she said, her eyes wet. "Don't let it take you." Elias nodded, but the fire called, its roar louder than her voice. That night, the dream returned, clearer. Elias stood in a void, the ancient fire before him, vast and alive. It spoke, not in words, but in images. Battles where flames shaped galaxies, shadows swallowing stars. He saw himself older, leading an army of fire, his eyes red and white, the mark glowing like a sun. The fire taught him words to call light, gestures to bend flames, paths to walk through stars. Each lesson burned, his head throbbing, but the power felt good, like he could touch the sky and make it obey. He woke gasping, his hands warm, as if he'd held fire. The mark glowed, brighter than ever. He hid it under his sleeve, but Grandma saw, her face pale. "It's teaching you," she said, voice trembling. She gave him a new rune, carved on a stone to wear with the necklace. "Keep it close," she said. "It'll hold you to earth." Elias clutched it, the stone cool against his skin, but the shadow laughed. Too late. Days passed, the visions growing. Elias saw them awake now, flashes of cosmic wars, flames clashing with voids, worlds born and dying. He learned skills, how to spark fire with a thought, how to see hidden paths in the forest, how to hear stars' songs, but each skill aged. Him, his face thinner, his eyes older. Lila noticed, whispering, "You're changing." Tim stayed back, scared. Elias felt the distance, the shadow feeding on it. "They'll abandon you." He tried to fight it, helping Grandma with chores, playing with friends. But the fire's lessons were addictive, filling his mind with wonders. He drew them in secret, flames shaping planets, himself as a warrior of light. Grandma found the drawings, burning them. "These call the fire," she said, her voice fierce. Elias nodded, guilt heavy, but he couldn't stop. One evening, the wanderer returned, his cloak tattered, eyes like embers. "You've seen the fire," he said, touching Elias's mark. "It's chosen you." He taught a new chant, words that burned like the fire itself, sharp and bright. "Use it to control the flame," he said, "or it'll control you." Elias practiced, the words searing his throat, but they steadied him, pushing the shadow down. The town grew stranger. Fires sparked without cause, fences burning, fields smoldering. People blamed lightning, but Elias knew better. The ancient fire was leaking, woken by his dreams. Stars pulsed in patterns, brighter each night, their songs louder. Elias heard them at school, drowning out lessons. Lila caught him staring at the sky, her voice soft. "Tell us what's happening." Elias wanted to, but the shadow stopped him, whispering, "They'll hate you." One night, a vision hit hard. Elias stood in the manor, the throne empty, the fire surrounding him. It spoke, "You're my champion. Lead my war." It showed him battles, flames devouring shadows, but also worlds, lives, light. The fire didn't care who burned, only that it spread. Elias refused, chanting the wanderer's words, waking with a scream. The mark burned, his hair grayer, his hands trembling with power he didn't want. Grandma found him, her eyes sad but fierce. "You're fighting, child," she said, brewing tea that smelled of roots and earth. It calmed him, but the fire's lessons stayed, burning in his mind. He saw flames when he closed his eyes, felt their heat in his bones. The shadow whispered, "Embrace it." Elias clutched the runestone, chanting, but the fire was stronger, its call a song he couldn't ignore. The next day, a fire broke out in the forest, not orange but blue, like the candle's flame. Elias ran to it, heart pounding. The flames danced, forming shapes, faces, hands, his name in burning letters. Townsfolk gathered, scared, praying. Elias saw Lila and Tim, their faces pale. "You know what this is," Tim said, his voice shaking. Elias nodded, guilt choking him. He'd woken the fire, and now it was here. He chanted the wanderer's words, the runestone warm in his hand. The flames flickered, but didn't die. The shadow laughed, urging him to join them. Elias fought, raising his hands, feeling the fire's power in his veins. He shaped it, pushing it back, but it burned, his skin blistering. Lila grabbed his arm, shouting, "Stop!" Tim threw dirt, trying to help. The flames dimmed, but the forest smoldered, the air thick with ash. Grandma appeared, her book of runes, open, chanting louder than Elias. The flames shrank, hissing, but left scars. Trees blackened, ground cracked. Elias fell, exhausted, the mark glowing. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Lila hugged him. Tim stood close, but their eyes held fear. "What are you?" Lila asked, voice soft. Elias didn't answer, the shadow laughing. The town blamed a lightning strike, but whispers spread. Strange lights, a boy with old eyes. Elias stayed home, helping Grandma, avoiding eyes. She brewed stronger teas, her chants louder, but the fire's lesson stayed, teaching him in dreams. He learned to spark flames with a snap, to see paths through stars, to hear the cosmos's heartbeat. Each skill aged him, his hair nearly white now, his hands steady but frail. The wanderer came again, his face gaunt. "The fire's awake," he said. "You're its vessel." He gave a final chant, words like burning coals, hard to speak but strong. "Use it to bind the fire," he said, "or it'll burn everything." Elias practiced, the words cutting his lips, but they held. The shadow back, locking the fire's power. Nights grew worse. Stars sang his name. Flames danced in his dreams. The manor's throne called, promising victory over shadows, but at a cost. Earth, his home, his friends. Elias refused, waking with burns on his hands. Grandma bandaged them, her eyes wet. "You're my boy," she said. "Stay mine." One night, a new fire bloomed, green and cold in the town square. Elias saw it from his window, the shadow excited. He knew it was the fire's next move, another test. The cosmos was watching, and Elias was running out of time. Chapter 8. Bonds Broken by the Stars. Elias felt like he was unraveling, thread by thread, pulled apart by the cosmos. The town of Eldridge, with its sagging wooden houses and fog-choked streets, seemed to shrink under the weight of the stars above. The ancient fire's lessons burned in his mind, teaching him to spark flames with a thought and see paths through the sky. But each gift aged him, graying his hair and deepening the lines around his eyes. The shadow inside him, fed by the red star, the hollow's void, the manor's throne, and the orb's light, grew bolder, whispering through the day, "You're not theirs anymore." The rune-carved necklace and stone from Grandma were his only tethers, their warmth fading against the cosmic pull. The green fire in the town square had vanished by morning, leaving charred cobblestones and whispers of curses. Townsfolk blamed. Witches, lightning, anything but the truth Elias carried like a stone in his chest. His friends, Tim and Lila, stayed close but wary, their eyes flicking to his graying hair, his red-flecked eyes. "You're different," Lila said, her braid swinging as she frowned. Tim nodded, quieter since the eclipse, his usual grin gone. "You scare me sometimes," he admitted, kicking dirt. Elias wanted to explain. The candle, the star, the fire. But the shadow stopped him, whispering, "They'll run." The stars were changing people. Eldridge felt wrong, like a clock wound too tight. Neighbors argued, voices sharp. Dogs barked at nothing. Children drew stars in the dirt, their eyes distant. Elias saw it in Tim and Lila, too. Lila snapped at teachers, her kindness fraying. Tim ignored games, staring at the sky, muttering about lights that moved. Elias knew the stars were calling, their songs weaving into minds, pulling strings like puppets. The shadow laughed. They're ours, too. School, Elias drifted. Lessons drowned by the fire's lessons echoing in his head. He saw cosmic wars, flames against voids, worlds burning, and felt their power in his hands. He hid it, but sparks flickered when he was angry, singeing his desk once. Lila saw, her eyes wide. "What was that?" she asked. Elias shrugged, the shadow whispering, "Lie." He did, hating himself. The distance grew, Tim and Lila talking less, their glances sharp with doubt. One night the stars pulsed brighter, their light green, like the fire in the square. Elias dreamed of the manor, its throne empty, the ancient fire circling him. It spoke. "They hold you back. Break free." He saw Tim and Lila in the flames, their faces twisted, accusing. "You brought this," they said, voices not their own. Elias woke, heart pounding, the mark on his hand, 3 stars in a triangle, glowing green. He chanted the wanderer's words, clutching the rune stone, but the shadow pushed back, stronger now. The next day, Tim didn't come to school. Lila said he was sick, but her eyes were red, like she'd cried. Elias went to Tim's house, a small shack by the forest. Tim's mom answered, her face pale. "He won't talk," she whispered, "just stares at the sky." Elias found Tim in his room, sitting by the window, eyes fixed on the stars. "They're singing," Tim said, voice flat. "They want me." Elias's heart sank. The stars had him, like they had Elias. He tried talking, but Tim's eyes were wrong, glowing faintly green. "You did this," Tim said, voice sharp. "You woke them." Elias flinched, the shadow laughing. "He's right," it said. Elias touched Tim's shoulder, but sparks flew, burning Tim's shirt. Tim screamed, shoving Elias away. "Get out!" Elias ran, guilt choking him. The shadow whispered, "He's gone." Lila was next. At school, she ignored Elias, her braid tucked tight, her eyes distant. She drew stars on her notebook, their lines sharp, like the manor's symbols. Elias grabbed her arm, desperate. "Don't listen to them," he said. Lila pulled away, eyes flashing. "You're the problem," she snapped. "You brought the dark." Elias froze, the shadow cheering. He saw green flecks in her eyes, like Tim's. The stars were taking her too. Elias went home, heart heavy. Grandma saw his face, her eyes sad. "The stars are cruel," she said, brewing tea that smelled of earth. "They break what we love." She told him a story. Long ago, stars sang to whole towns, turning friends against each other, pulling them to the sky. "They want your heart," she said. "Don't let them have it." Elias nodded, but the shadow whispered, "Too late." He dreamed that night, not of the manor, but of Eldridge. It's nostalgic, the stars glowing green. Tim and Lila stood in the square, their eyes glowing, calling him traitor. They attacked, hands burning with starlight. Elias fought, using the fire's power, but they fell, screaming, into the void. He woke, sobbing, the mark burning. The shadow laughed. "You can't save them." Determined to fight, Elias went to the forest, to the altar where the candle once burned. He chanted the wanderer's words, the runestone warm in his hand. The air hummed, and a vision came. Tim and Lila trapped in the manor, their minds caught by stars. The ancient fire whispered, "Free them, use me." Elias refused, knowing the fire's price, but the shadow urged, "You must." He found Tim in the forest, staring at the sky, muttering star songs. Elias grabbed him, chanting, forcing his way into Tim's mind. It was like diving into fire. Tim's thoughts were a maze of green light, stars screaming his name. Elias fought, using the fire's lessons to spark light, burning the stars' hold. Tim gasped, collapsing, eyes clear but weak. "What happened?" he whispered. Elias hugged him, tears falling. "You're back." Lila was harder. She was at school, drawing stars, her eyes glowing. Elias pulled her aside, ignoring her protests. He chanted, entering her mind, a storm of green flames. The stars fought, their voices like knives, but Elias burned them out, his hands blistering. Lila blinked, crying, "I'm sorry." Elias held her, the shadow silent for once. The town noticed their return, but whispers grew. Elias was cursed, dangerous. People avoided him, crossing streets. Grandma stood by him, her chant stronger, but even she looked tired. "You're fighting too much," she said, her voice soft. Elias clutched the runestone, nodding, but the shadow whispered, "You're alone." The wanderer came, his cloak ragged, eyes like coals. "You broke their hold, Aina Nuktim Andrin," Elias nodded, his heart heavy. "You pulled them back," the wanderer said, "but the stars ain't done." He taught a new chant, words like shards of light, sharp and bright. "Use it when they call," he said. Elias practiced, the words cutting through the shadows. Hold, locking it away. Days blurred, the town uneasy, stars pulsed at night, green and hungry. Elias used his fire powers in secret, sparking flames to light his way through the forest, searching for answers. He found a hidden clearing, where a stone glowed faintly green. Touching it brought visions. Tim and Lila in the manor, their minds free. Elias burned the stone with a thought, its light fading, but the shadow grew, whispering, "You can't save everyone." The stars' hold weakened, but not gone. Elias felt it in his friends, their eyes still flickering green sometimes. He chanted every night, the runestone his anchor, keeping the shadow and stars at bay. But the cosmos was patient, and Elias knew the bonds he'd mended were fragile, the stars always watching. Chapter 9. The Awakening Abyss. Elias felt like he was walking a tightrope, the cosmos on one side and Eldridge on the other, both pulling hard. The stars' grip on Tim and Lila had weakened, their eyes clearer, but the green flecks lingered, a reminder of how close he'd come to losing them. The town, with its creaky houses and fog-wrapped streets, buzzed with unease. Fires sparked. Without cause, clocks ticked wrong, and whispers of curses spread like weeds. Elias's shadow, fed by the red star, the hollow's void, the manor's throne, the orb's light, and the ancient fire, was a constant hum, louder since he'd fought. The stars' hold on his friends. "They're still mine," it whispered, its voice like sand in his throat. The rune-carved necklace and stone from Grandma were his lifelines, their warmth dimming but still there, holding him to earth. His dreams were relentless, a mix of fire and void, the manor's throne glowing with promises of power. But a new image haunted him, an abyss, deeper than the hollow, blacker than the eternal night. It wasn't just empty, it was alive, pulsing like a heart, its edges fraying the world. In the dream it called his name, not in whispers but in a roar that shook his bones. Elias woke, gasping, his mark, 3 stars in a triangle, burning green on his hand. He hid it, but the shadow laughed. "It's coming for you." The town felt it too. Flowers wilted black, their petals crumbling at a touch. Dogs dug holes, snarling at nothing. Kids at school drew spirals, their eyes distant, like Tim and Lila's had been. Elias saw it in the mirror, his own eyes, red and white flecked, now tinged green, his hair nearly all gray. He looked 16, not 12, his face thin, his hands shaky. Grandma noticed, her eyes wet as she brewed tea that smelled of roots. "You're carrying too much," she said, her voice soft but firm. "Let it go, child." Elias nodded, but the abyss's call was louder, pulling like a tide. One morning, a scream woke the town. Elias ran outside, the air heavy with a strange hum. In the forest where the orbs were buried, the ground had split, a crack wide as a man, deep as forever, glowing green at its edges. Townsfolk gathered, whispering of hell opening. Elias felt the shadow surge, excited, as if the crack was home. The air smelled of metal and rot, like the red star's stone. Grandma pulled him back, her grip tight. "Stay away," she said, her voice shaking. That's no natural thing, but Elias knew he couldn't stay away. The abyss called, its roar echoing the dream. He waited until night, when Grandma slept, and sneaked to the forest, the rune stone warm in his pocket. The crack was wider, its green light pulsing like a heartbeat. Shadows moved inside, not the red star's cruel ones or the eclipse's creatures, but something worse. Shapes that weren't shapes, twisting like smoke, their eyes like holes. They whispered his name, their voices a chorus of hunger. "Elias, come home," they said. He clutched the runestone, chanting the wanderer's words, but the abyss fought back, its pull stronger than the stars. The shadow inside him cheered. "Jump." Elias's legs shook, drawn to the edge. He saw visions in the green light. Worlds swallowed, stars snuffed out, himself standing at the abyss's heart, eyes glowing green, the shadow free. Pain hit, his head splitting, but he chanted. Louder, the runestone burning. The shapes hissed, retreating, but the abyss stayed open, waiting. He ran home, heart pounding, the shadow laughing. Grandma was awake, her eyes sharp. "You went," she said, not a question. Elias nodded, tears falling. "It's alive," he whispered. She hugged him, her warmth grounding, but her voice was grim. "The abyss is old, child. Older than the fire, the stars. It eats everything." She gave him a new rune, carved on a bone shard, its edges sharp. "Keep it close," she said. "It'll hold you." School was a blur, lessons lost to the abyss's roar in his head. Tim and Lila stayed near, their trust fragile but real. "You look worse," Lila said, her braid tucked tight. Tim nodded, his eyes wary. "What's next?" Elias wanted to tell them, but the shadow whispered, "They'll break." He stayed, silent, guilt heavy. At recess, he saw kids drawing the crack in the dirt, their lines exact like they'd seen it. The abyss was spreading, touching minds. He went to the library, tales of the cosmic veil heavy in his hands. A chapter spoke of the awakening abyss, a rift older than the universe, born when light and dark first split. It wasn't just a void, but a mind, hungry for names, souls, worlds. Those who faced it became its voice or its prey. Elias's mark burned, the shadow whispering, "You're chosen." The book warned of signs, black flowers, wrong clocks, minds unraveling. Eldridge had them all. That night, the abyss called louder. Elias dreamed of standing at its edge, the green light pulling him in. Shapes rose, not just shadows but fears. His parents accusing, Grandma fading, Tim and Lila screaming. They became monsters, eyes like voids, claws dripping starlight. "Join us!" they roared. Elias fought, using the fire's lessons to spark flames, burning them back. But they were him, his doubts, his guilt, his fear of losing everything. The shadow cheered. "They're true!" He woke, the bone shard cutting his palm, blood dripping. The mark glowed green, brighter than ever. Grandma found him, her face pale. "You're bleeding," she said, bandaging his hand. She chanted, over the bone shard, her voice strong, locking the shadow down. "You can't go back," she said. Elias nodded, but the abyss's pull was a hook in his heart. Days passed, the crack growing. Townsfolk stayed away, but some vanished. Old misses. Cole, who'd drawn spirals. A boy from school, his eyes green. Elias knew they were in the abyss, their screams joining the chorus. Guilt choked him. He'd woken it, from the candle to the orbs. He tried to act normal, helping Grandma, playing with Tim and Lila, but the shadow whispered, "You're poison." One evening, the wanderer returned, his cloak torn, eyes like voids. "The abyss is awake," he said, touching Elias's mark. "You opened it." Elias flinched, guilt burning. The wanderer gave a new chant, words like knives, cutting his tongue. "Use it to seal the rift," he said, "or it'll take everything." Elias practiced. the words sharp, pushing the shadow back. But the abyss's roar was louder, shaking the ground. The crack spread, reaching the town's edge. People fled, houses abandoned. Elias rallied Tim and Lila, their eyes clear, but scared. "We gotta stop it," he said, showing them the bone. "Shard." Lila nodded, her braids swinging. "We're with you." Tim gripped his hand, shaky but firm. They went to the forest, the abyss's green light blinding. Shapes swarmed, their voices a storm. Elias chanted, the bone shard burning, its light clashing with the green. He dove into the crack, not with his body but his mind, like he'd done for Tim and Lila. The abyss was vast, a sea of black and green, shapes twisting, his fears made real. His parents clawed at him. "You failed us." Grandma faded. "You're lost." Tim and Lila screamed, "You brought this." Elias fought, sparking flames with the fire's lessons, burning his fears. The shadow fought back, growing. But the bone shard's light held, guiding him. He found the abyss's heart, a pulsing core of green light, screaming names. Elias chanted, the wanderer's words like fire, sealing the core. The shapes screamed, dissolving, the green light fading. He woke in the forest, Tim and Lila holding him, the crack smaller but not gone. "You did it," Lila whispered. Elias shook his head exhausted. "Not yet." The town quieted, but scars remained. Empty houses, black flowers. Elias's mark glowed less, but the shadow stayed, whispering, "It's not over." Grandma hugged him, her chant stronger, but her eyes were tired. "You're my boy," she said. Elias clutched the bone shard, knowing the abyss was waiting, patient, hungry. One night, a new light pulsed, purple and cold in the sky. Elias saw it, the shadow excited. The abyss wasn't done, and neither was he. Chapter 10, Flames of Forbidden. Knowledge. Elias was no longer just a boy from Eldridge. He was a battleground, torn between the earth he loved and the cosmos that claimed him. The town, with its sagging wooden houses and fog-draped streets, felt like a fragile shell, ready to crack under the weight of the stars. The abyss's green glow had faded, sealed by his chants, but its whispers lingered in his mind, joining the shadow that had grown from the red star, the hollow's void, the manor's throne, the orb's light, and the ancient fire. The shadow was a constant hum, louder now, weaving through his thoughts. "You're ours." The rune-carved necklace and bone shard from Grandma were his anchors, their warmth dim but stubborn, tethering him to home. Yet the purple light he'd seen in the sky, cold and pulsing, promised more trouble, and Elias felt its pull like a hook in his heart. His dreams were fire and void, a mix of the manor's glowing throne and the abyss's hungry dark. But now, new visions came. Books, not of paper, but of flame, their pages burning with secrets that made his head ache. In one dream, a book floated before him, its words alive, crawling like ants, spelling his name. "Read," it whispered, and when he did, knowledge flooded in. How to call stars, shape voids, stop time. It was thrilling, but it burned, his mind straining like a rope about to snap. He woke gasping, his mark, 3 stars in a triangle, glowing purple, stinging. His hand, the shadow laughed. "More. Take more." Eldridge was unraveling. The purple light had vanished by morning, but the town felt wrong. Trees bled sap that smelled of metal. Street lamps flickered in patterns like star songs, and people moved slow, their eyes distant. Tim and Lila stayed close, their trust fragile since the abyss. But even they were different. Lila's braid hung limp, her smiles rare. Tim's chatter was gone, his eyes flicking to the sky. Elias saw purple flecks in their gazes, faint but growing, and knew the stars were still calling. The shadow whispered, "They'll fall again." At breakfast, Grandma's eyes were sharp, studying Elias over her tea. "You're carrying too much," she said, her voice low. What's in your dreams now? Elias hesitated, the shadow urging silence, but he told her about the flaming books, the knowledge that hurt. Her face paled, lines deepening. Forbidden knowledge, she said, setting her cup down with a clink. Your uncle chased it too, burned his soul to ash. She told a story. Long ago, books of fire appeared to those marked by the cosmos, offering power but twisting their minds. They tempt you to be more than human, she said, but humans ain't meant for that. Elias nodded, guilt heavy. He wanted to resist, but the knowledge was addictive, like the orb's light, promising wonders. He went to school, but lessons were noise, drowned by the book's whispers in his head. He saw them awake now, faint at the edges of his vision. Pages of flame hovering over desks, their words buzzing. Read us. Sparks flicked from his fingers when he reached, singeing his notebook. Lila saw, her eyes wide. What's happening to you? She asked. Elias lied. Nothing, but the shadow grinned, feeding on his fear. After school, he ran to the library, drawn to tales of the cosmic veil. The book felt alive, its pages warm, almost burning. A chapter spoke of flames of forbidden knowledge, books born from the ancient fire, holding secrets of the universe's birth, how to weave light, command voids, unravel time. But each word read stole a piece of the reader, turning their soul to ash. The marked, like Elias, were their targets, chosen to carry the cosmos's truths. His mark burned, the shadow whispering, read, become. He slammed the book shut, heart racing. The knowledge was power, but it was poison too. He felt it changing him. His hair was fully gray now, his hands frail, his eyes old beyond his 12 years. Tim and Lila noticed, their worry sharp. You look like a ghost, Tim said, his voice shaky. Lila nodded, her braid tucked tight. Tell us the truth. Elias wanted to, but the shadow stopped him, whispering, they'll hate you. That night, a book appeared, not in a dream, but in his room. It hovered over his bed, pages of blue and purple flame, words shifting like stars. Read, it said, its voice the ancient fire's roar. Elias clutched the bone shard, chanting the wanderer's words, but the book stayed, its light pulling him. He touched a page and knowledge flooded in. How to open gates to the manor, call comets, see the universe's end. His head split, blood dripping from his nose, but the power felt good, like he could hold the stars in his hands. The shadow cheered. More! Elias dropped the book, its flames fading, but the knowledge stayed, burning in his mind. He hid it under his bed next to the dull candle shard, but it glowed through the floorboards, calling. Grandma found him, her face pale. You touched it, she said, seeing his bloodied nose. She chanted over the book, her voice fierce, and it vanished, leaving ash. Burn the rest, she said, or they'll burn you. Elias tried, searching the house, the forest, anywhere the books might hide. He found 3 more, each in a different place, behind the altar, under a library shelf, in the garden's dirt. Their flames were brighter, their words louder, promising godhood, rule the cosmos, be eternal. Each touch hurt worse, his head throbbing, his eyes burning purple. The shadow grew, urging him to keep them, but Elias burned them with a snap of his fingers, using the fire's lessons. The flames screamed, the shadow hissing, but the books turned to ash. One book remained, hidden in his coat, too strong to burn. Its light was cold, purple like the sky's pulse. Elias kept it secret, guilt choking him. He read it at night when Grandma slept, each word a needle in his mind. He learned to bend light, making shadows dance, to whisper to stars, their songs answering, to see time's edges, moments folding like paper. But each lesson aged him, his bones aching, his breath short. The shadow whispered, "You're more now." The town felt the book's touch. Fires sparked in houses, purple and unquenchable. People dreamed of flames, waking with burns. Tim and Lila grew distant, their eyes purple-flecked again. Elias saw them at school, drawing flaming books, their hands shaking. "You're doing this," Lila said, her voice sharp. Tim nodded, his eyes cold. "Fix it." Elias flinched, the shadow laughing. He wanted to save them, but the book's knowledge was all he had. He went to the forest, to the altar, hoping to end it. The last book glowed in his hands, its pages heavy. He chanted the Wanderer's words, the bone shard burning, and tried to burn the book. It fought, flames flaring, showing visions. Himself as a god, stars bowing, worlds his to shape. The manor's throne appeared, empty, waiting. "Sit," the book said. Elias refused, chanting louder, the bone shard's light clashing with the book's purple flame. It burned, screaming, ash falling like snow. But the knowledge stayed, rooted in his mind. Elias felt it, power to open gates, call voids, become more than human. The shadow cheered, "You're free," but he wasn't. The town suffered. More fires, more dreams, more missing people. Old Mr. Hale's son vanished. His room burned purple. Elias knew he'd caused it, the book's light leaking through him. Grandma saw his pain, her eyes sad. "You're fighting, child," she said, brewing tea that smelled of earth and ash. "But you're holding too much." She gave him a new rune, carved on a twig, its edges sharp. "Burn the knowledge," she said. Elias nodded, but the shadow whispered, "Keep it." The wanderer returned, his cloak black as voids, eyes like dying stars. "You read the books," he said, touching Elias's mark. "They're part of you now." He gave a final chant, words like molten metal, heavy and hot. "Use it to lock the knowledge away," he said, "or it'll consume you." Elias practiced, the words searing his throat, pushing the shadow down. But the knowledge stayed, tempting him with power. Nights were torture. Stars sang his name, purple and loud. Elias saw the manor in dreams, the throne his, the book's flames circling. He woke chanting, the twig rune cutting his hand. Grandma bandaged it, her voice soft. "Stay human," she said. Elias nodded, tears falling, but the shadow laughed. "You're not." One night, a purple fire bloomed in the forest, brighter than before. Elias saw it from his window, the shadow excited. He knew it was the book's last call, the cosmos's final test. The knowledge burned in him, promising everything, but he clutched the twig rune, ready to fight. Chapter 11. The Final Whisper. Elias stood at the edge of his bed, staring out the window into the dark night. The purple fire in the forest glowed like a bad dream that wouldn't end. It danced high, casting weird shadows on the trees, making them look like twisted hands reaching for the sky. His heart beat fast, like a drum in his chest, and the shadow inside him stirred, excited and hungry. "Go to it," the shadow whispered, its voice low and sneaky, like wind through cracks in the wall. Elias gripped the twig rune from Grandma, its sharp edges digging into his palm. The knowledge from the books burned in his mind, hot and heavy, promising power to fix everything or break it all. The town of Eldridge slept uneasy that night. Houses creaked under the weight of secrets, and the fog rolled in thicker than usual, hiding the streets in a gray blanket. Elias knew he couldn't wait. The purple fire was calling, pulling at him like invisible strings. He slipped on his coat, the one with holes from past fights against the stars, and crept down the stairs. Grandma's snores came from her room, steady but tired, like she carried the world's worries in her sleep. He paused at her door, wanting to wake her, to tell her he was scared, but the shadow pushed him on. "You're strong now. You don't need her." Outside, the air was cold and sharp, smelling of smoke and something older, like burnt stars. The forest loomed ahead, its trees whispering as he walked the path. Roots tripped him, but he kept going, the twig rune warm in his hand. The purple fire grew brighter, lighting the way like a lantern from hell. When he reached the clearing, the same one where the candle's altar once stood, The fire roared tall, shaping itself into faces he knew, his parents' eyes empty, Grandma, mouth open in a silent scream, Tim and Lila laughing in a mean way. "Elias," they all said together, their voices mixing into one big whisper. He stopped, fear knotting his stomach. The mark on his hand, 3 stars in a triangle, burned purple, matching the fire's glow. The shadow inside laughed. "They're waiting for you. Join them." Elias shook his head, chanting the wanderer's words under his breath. The twig rune sparked, sending a jolt up his arm, pushing the shadow down a bit. But the fire didn't back off. It grew, spreading across the ground like spilled water, forming words in the grass. Final whisper, "Your name." Elias stepped closer, the heat not burning his skin but his mind. Visions hit him hard like punches. He saw the universe's start, a big bang of light and dark crashing together. Flames and shadows fought from the beginning, eating each other, making worlds and breaking them. He was there, a small boy in a big storm, his name echoing through time. The knowledge from the books helped him understand how to weave the flames, bend the shadows, seal the voids. But it hurt, his head throbbing like it might split open. Blood trickled from his nose, but he wiped it away, focusing on the chant. The fire whispered louder now, not in pictures but in words that felt like knives. "You fought long, Elias. The candle started it. The star marked you. The void pulled you. The manor tempted you. Now hear the final truth. You're not from here. Your soul is star stuff, born in fire, meant for the cosmos." Elias froze, the shadow nodding inside him. "Yes," it said. "Let go of Earth." He thought of Grandma's hugs, Tim's laughs, Lila's smiles. They were real, warm, not cold like the stars. He chanted stronger, the twig rune glowing bright, clashing with the purple flames. The fire fought back, rising into a wall that blocked the path home. Shapes came out of it, creatures with too many eyes, bodies made of smoke and light, claws, sharp as thorns. They lunged at him, whispering lies. "Grandma hates what you've become. Your friends will die because of you." Elias dodged, sparking flames from his hands using the book's secrets. Blue fire shot out, burning one creature to ash. But more came, endless, like the eclipse's dark things but worse, fed by the cosmos's anger. He ran in circles in the clearing, chanting, fighting. The mark on his hand pulsed, sending pain up his arm, but also power. He shaped the air, making a shield of light, but it cracked under the creature's attacks. The shadow inside grew, trying to take over. "Let me help," it said. "We can win together." Elias refused, remembering Grandma's words. "Stay human." He clutched the twig rune tighter, its edges cutting his skin, blood mixing with the glow. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time bent weird in the fire's light. Elias tired, his legs heavy, breath short. The creatures closed in, their whispers turning to screams. Then a voice cut through. "Elias!" It was Grandma, bursting into the clearing, her nightgown dirty, eyes wide with fear and love. Behind her came Tim and Lila, faces pale but set, holding sticks like weapons. "We followed you," Lila said, her braid messy from running. Tim nodded. "Couldn't let you fight alone." The shadow hissed inside Elias, angry at the help. But his heart lifted. Grandma chanted old words, her voice joining his, the twig rune flaring brighter. Tim and Lila swung their sticks, hitting creatures that got too close, though the blows passed through like smoke. Elias focused, using the book's knowledge to weave a net of light around the fire. It screamed, shrinking, the creatures fading, back into it. Grandma threw salt from her pocket, making the flames hiss and spit. Together they pushed. Elias's chant grew loud, the mark on his hand shining like a small sun. The purple fire dimmed, whispering one last thing. "This isn't the end. The embrace waits." Then it vanished, leaving the clearing dark and quiet, the ground scorched black. Elias fell to his knees, gasping, the twig rune cool now. Grandma hugged him tight. "You did it, child." Tim and Lila piled on, their arms warm, chasing away the cold. But as they walked home, the shadow whispered soft, not gone but waiting. The final whisper is just the start. Elias looked at the sky, stars pulsing faint purple. He knew it was right. The cosmos wasn't done. Back in the house, Grandma brewed tea, strong and bitter, to calm their nerves. Tim and Lila sat at the table, eyes big from what they'd seen. "What was that fire?" Tim asked, voice shaky. Elias told them everything. The candle that started it all, the star, the void, the manor, the orbs, the eclipse, the abyss, the books. Words poured out, the shadow trying to stop him but too weak now. Lila listened, her hand on his. "We've been scared," she said. "But we're with you." Tim nodded. "No more secrets." Grandma added her stories of old times when stars whispered to folks, pulling them away. "Elias is marked," she said, "but he's strong." They talked late, the tea growing cold, bonds mending like broken fences. Elias felt lighter, the shadow, quiet for the first time in months. But as dawn came, gray and slow, a chill ran through him. The purple flecks in Tim and Lila's eyes were gone, but his mark still tingled. That day, the town woke to changes. The fog lifted, but the air hummed low, like a far-off storm. People moved slower, whispering of bad dreams. Elias helped Grandma in the garden, planting seeds that might grow wrong. Tim and Lila came by, kicking a ball, trying to be kids again. But Elias saw them glance at the sky, fear hidden in their laughs. The wanderer appeared at dusk, his cloak ragged, eyes deep as voids. He stood at the door, not coming in. "You heard the final whisper," he said. Voice rough. Elias nodded. It fought hard. The wanderer touched Elias's mark, making it sting. The cosmos speaks in layers. Whispers lead to embraces. He gave no new chant, just a warning. The eternal flame waits. It will hug you tight. Then he left, melting into the shadows like he was part of them. Elias dreamed that night, not of fire, but of quiet. A vast space, stars far away, a whisper fading. But at the edge, a warm glow waited, red and blue, like the candle's flame grown big. It didn't speak, but he felt its pull, gentle yet strong. He woke calm, but scared. The shadow was silent, like it knew what came next. Days turned to weeks. Eldridge tried to heal. Flowers bloomed normal, clocks ticked right. Tim and Lila played more, their laughs real. Grandma smiled, her teas less bitter. Elias helped, but inside he changed. The knowledge stayed, a tool he didn't use but felt. His hair stayed gray, eyes old, but his heart felt young when with friends. One evening, as autumn leaves fell early, a new glow appeared in the sky. Not purple, but warm, like a hug from fire. Elias saw it from the window, heart sinking. The eye, shadow stirred, soft. The embrace. He told Grandma, her face paling. "It's time," she said. They gathered, Elias, Grandma, Tim, Lila, in the backyard, staring up. The glow grew, shaping into arms, wide and welcoming. Whispers came, faint. "Come home." Elias clutched the twig rune, chanting. But the pull was kind, not mean. The shadow whispered, "Let go." Grandma held his hand. "Fight or not, you're my boy." Tim and Lila hugged him. "We're here." Elias felt tears. The cosmos called, but Earth held him. The glow lowered, touching the town. Houses lit up, warm. People came out, eyes wide but not scared. The flame embraced Eldridge, soft, showing visions to all. Stars dancing, worlds born, peace in the chaos. Elias saw it too. The universe not hungry, but lonely, wanting friends. But the shadow twisted it, whispering lies. "It's a trap." Elias chanted louder, the twig rune breaking in his hand. The glow recoiled, hurt, then faded. The night went dark, stars normal. Elias sighed, relieved but sad. The final whisper was over, but the embrace waited. Chapter 12. Eternal Flames Embrace. Elias stood in the backyard, the cold autumn air biting his skin. The warm glow that had hugged Eldridge the night before was gone, but its memory burned in his mind like a promise he couldn't shake. The town lay quiet, its wooden houses dark under a sky of stars that twinkled too bright, too knowing. The shadow inside him, fed by the candle's flame, the red star, the hollow's void, the manor's throne, the orb's light, the ancient fire, and the abyss's whispers, hummed low, eager. "It's time," it whispered, voice like a snake, sliding through grass. Elias gripped the broken twig rune, its sharp edges gone, its power weak. The rune-carved necklace from Grandma hung heavy, its warmth faint against the cosmic pull. The night felt alive, the air thick with a hum that wasn't sound but feeling, like the universe held its breath. Elias's mark, 3 stars in Yim, a triangle, tingled on his hand, glowing faintly warm, not purple like before, but red and blue, like the candle's flame grown big. He knew the eternal flame was coming, not as a fire to fight, but as a hug, to tempt. Grandma stood beside him, her shawl tight around her shoulders, eyes sharp despite the late hour. Tim and Lila waited nearby, their faces pale but set, sticks in hand like they could fight the stars. "We're with you," Lila said, her braid messy from the wind. Tim nodded, his usual grin gone, eyes flicking to the sky. The glow came sudden, not from the forest but above, a warm light spreading like spilled honey. It wasn't harsh like the purple fire or cold like the abyss's green. It was soft, welcoming, wrapping Eldridge in a blanket of red and blue flames that didn't burn. The stars dimmed as if bowing to it. Townsfolk stepped outside, eyes wide. Not scared, but curious. The flame whispered, not just to Elias, but to everyone, soft as a lullaby. "Come home." The shadow inside him cheered. "Yes, go." Elias's heart raced, torn between the warmth and Grandma's warnings. The knowledge from the books, how to call stars, bend voids, shape flames, burned in his mind, tempting him to use it. He saw visions in the glow, the universe's heart, a fire that birthed galaxies, lonely and seeking friends. It showed him his parents, smiling, not trapped, but waiting in a place of light. "Join us," they said, voices sweet. The shadow pushed. "They're real." But Elias remembered the manor's lies, the abyss's tricks. He clutched the necklace, chanting the wanderer's words, voice shaky but strong. The flame grew, forming arms that stretched over the town, hugging houses, trees, people. It didn't hurt, but it pulled, gentle yet firm, like a tide drawing him to sea. Grandma grabbed his hand, her grip fierce. "Stay here, child," she said, voice cracking. Tim and Lila stood closer, their sticks useless, but their presence strong. "Don't go," Tim said, voice low. Lila's eyes shone with tears. "We need you." The shadow laughed. "They're small. The cosmos is big." Elias's mark burned, the flame's warmth sinking into his bones. Visions flooded in, himself as a Star Lord, weaving flames to make worlds, his parents beside him, happy. The town, faded Eldridge a speck against the vast sky. The knowledge whispered, "You can be more." Elias's hands shook, sparking blue flames without meaning to. They lit the grass, harmless but bright, making Tim jump back. Grandma chanted old words, her voice joining Elias's, pulling him back. She threw salt into the air, the grains glowing in the flame's light, falling like tiny stars. The hug tightened, the flame whispering louder, "You're ours." Born of fire, meant for light. Elias saw the manor in his mind, its throne empty, waiting. The flame wasn't fighting him, it was calling him home. The shadow surged, trying to push him into the glow. He stumbled, the necklace hot against his chest. "No," he whispered, thinking of Grandma's hugs, Tim's jokes, Lila's trust. He chanted louder, the words cutting his throat. The necklace, flaring. The flame's arms wavered, their warmth fading, but they didn't let go. They showed him more, galaxies dancing, stars singing his name, a place where pain didn't exist. His parents reached out, hands warm. "We're here," they said. Tears stung Elias's eyes. He missed them so much. The shadow pushed harder. Take it. Elias's mark glowed brighter, pain shooting up his arm. He saw himself giving in, stepping into the flame, becoming light. But he saw Eldridge burn behind him, Grandma fading, Tim and Lila screaming. "No!" he shouted, voice breaking. He raised his hands, using the book's secrets to weave a shield of blue fire, not to join the flame, but to push it back. The glow hissed, surprised, its arms pulling away. Grandma's chant grew, her voice strong despite her age. She pulled a small bone from her pocket, carved with runes older than the town. "Take it," she said, pressing it into Elias's hand. It burned, not with pain but power, joining the necklace's warmth. Tim and Lila joined in, shouting their own words, not chants, just promises. "We're here, Elias." Their voices grounded him, like roots holding a tree in a storm. The flame fought, its hug tightening, showing visions of cosmic peace. No fear, no loss, just light. Elias's heart ached, but he saw the lie. The flame wanted him, not to save him, but to use him. The shadow cheered, "Be theirs." But Elias thought of home, creaky houses, foggy streets, Grandma's tea. He chanted with Grandma, the bone rune glowing, its light clashing with the flames. The shield grew, blue fire spreading, pushing the glow back to the sky. Townsfolk watched, some reaching for the flame, eyes dreamy. Elias shouted, "Don't!" His voice carried power, the book's knowledge giving it weight. People blinked, stepping back, their faces clearing. The flame whispered one last time, "You'll come back." Then it shrank, pulling into a single point of light, like a star, winking out. The night returned, stars normal, the air quiet. Elias fell to his knees, exhausted, the bone rune cool in his hand. Grandma hugged him tight, her shawl smelling of earth and salt. "You stayed," she whispered, tears on her cheeks. Tim and Lila piled on, their arms warm, their laughs shaky but real. "You scared us," Lila said, her braid brushing his face. Tim grinned, weak but there. "Don't do that again." The shadow was silent, curled small inside him, not gone but weak. Elias looked at the sky, stars twinkling soft, no longer calling. But he felt their eyes, patient, waiting. The knowledge stayed, a weight he couldn't drop. How to call flames. Shape voids, see stars' hearts. His hair was gray, his eyes old, but his heart felt young, tied to Eldridge. The town woke slow, people shaken but alive. Houses stood, fog thinner, air lighter. Grandma brewed tea, strong and bitter, for everyone. Tim and Lila stayed, talking, laughing, mending bonds the stars had stretched thin. Elias told them more, about the flame's hug, the visions of his parents, the shadow's lies. They listened, eyes wide but not scared. "You're still you," Lila said. Tim nodded. "We're tougher than stars." Days passed, Eldridge healing. Flowers bloomed right. Clocks ticked steady, but whispers lingered. Folks saw lights at night, faint and warm, not threatening but watching. Elias felt them too, the flames echo in his mind. His mark tingled, a reminder of the cosmos's claim. He helped Grandma in the garden, seeds growing normal under his touch. Tim and Lila played, their laughs loud, but their eyes checked the sky sometimes. The wanderer came at dusk, his cloak tattered, eyes like fading coals. He stood outside, not entering. "You refuse the embrace," he said, voice rough but proud. Elias nodded, the bone rune in his pocket. It was hard. The wanderer touched his mark, making it sting. The flame never stops. It'll call. Again. He gave no new chant, just a look. "You're strong, but the cosmos is patient." Then he left, fading into the dark. Nights were quiet, but Elias dreamed of flames, not angry but kind, offering peace. He woke chanting, the bone rune warm. Grandma watched him, her eyes soft but worried. "You're my boy," she said, brewing tea that smelled of home. Elias nodded, wanting to believe he was still hers. One evening, as winter crept close, oh, light appeared, not warm, but silver, cold and sharp, pulsing in the forest. Elias saw it from his window, heart sinking. The shadow stirred, soft. Another call. He clutched the bone rune, knowing the fight wasn't over. The eternal flame had let go, but the cosmos still whispered his name.